Welcome back, Minesweepers. Today we are going to be adding in two big functions to your game, and those are calculating those adjacent bombs. So getting the numbers, the 1, 2, 3, to show up the way you want them to tell you how many bombs are around a given location, and as well as that, thinking about how to flag a location. So we're going to talk a little bit about how papplet allows you to do right-click maneuvers. Okay, so first things first, we want to actually be able to calculate where the bombs, well, we know where the bombs are, but we also want the user to be able to play the game fairly. So what happens when you play the game of Minesweeper is it flags the locations that are immediately, or I guess I shouldn't say flag, it shows the locations that are immediately around a bomb and indicates those with a number. So let me show you what I mean looking at a game of Minesweeper. So in this image, there is a bomb in a position and there are numbers that are surrounding it. The numbers surrounding it tell you for that tile position how many bombs are in that first perimeter or those adjacent locations. And that's to help the user figure out where are the bombs in the game. Now, granted, our board is not this big and we also only have 5 bombs in our game. It's going to look a little bit more simplistic, and that's okay. What I did do is I did steal these numbers so I could make them show up to skin the game to look the way that we want to, but that's for another video later on. So, thinking about actually calculating those numbers, I'm going to go ahead and inside of, let me remind myself, what did I call it day 1? Okay, let me just put these into my day 2 code. Inside of my value grid, remember that's the one that's secret that the computer knows about but the user can't see. I don't want to just hold the values of the bombs. I would actually also like to have those numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the other numbers are of how many adjacent locations there are, saved directly into this value grid. That way when I click to reveal them, it would reveal just like a bomb would be revealed or a 0 would be revealed. So the way that I'm going to go ahead and do that is I'm going to create a separate method. I'm just going to call it right inside of public game board. So you've got all of the code of game board already, and I'm just going to call a method that says set value grid. After you put the bombs at the location, you've done all of that stuff, we're just going to call this method called set value grid. That's a method that we are going to write. So what this public void set value grid is going to do is it's going to loop over the grid and for every position, give it the number that should be assigned to it. So I'm going to loop over value grid using those 2 for loops the way that we know how. And the thing that I want to do inside of this loop is I'm checking to see how many surrounding tiles would be bombs. So if it's a bomb itself, it's already got a value of -1. I don't want to reset my bombs. So if the location is already a bomb, we don't want to do anything. So if it's not a bomb, meaning it's not equal to -1, that would be a situation of going to check what's around. So then what I'm going to say is we're going to loop to visit first perimeter. Think back to infection. Perimeter visit. And if it's not equal to a bomb, what I want to do is I'm going to loop over the entirety of the first perimeter and I want to count how many bombs might be around that given position. So I'm going to create a counter variable. I guess maybe to be really obvious about it, I want this to say nearby bombs. So I'm going to loop over all of the things that are within the first perimeter. And then when I'm inside of that first perimeter, if perimeter location does in fact equal -1, meaning it is a bomb, well then I would want to increment my nearby bomb counter. Now I don't need to keep track of where that bomb is. Remember, I already know where that bomb is, but this helps me know how many bombs are around any given location. And when I'm finished looping over all the nearby locations, then I'm going to go ahead and set the value grid at that location, again, super pseudocode here, equal to however many bombs are nearby. And then I'm going to continue doing this for every location within my grid. If it's not a bomb, it should get a value. Now, it could have a value of 0. It could have no first perimeter bombs, in which case it would have a value of 0, and it's those gray pieces. But it could have a value of 1, 2, 3, 4, and given that we only have 5 bombs in our game, 5 would be the biggest number. So from here, if we go and we test this out and we click all around in our grid, unless you change things in the run graphical game, nothing's going to look differently. We need to assign color values, or maybe even later on a picture value, to each number that we are going to set. So remember, if I am a value of 1 in the grid, I think that'll show up as red by default unless you changed it. And if I was a value of 2, that would show up as green as by default unless you changed it. That's how infection was run. So now you might want 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to show up in very obviously different colors so you can see that this game is working. The other thing that you might want to do is, for a moment, for a time being, go into your run graphical game and switch it from showing where it says display.draw grid. The input to that draw grid method right now says game.getGrid. And we would want it to switch to game.getValueGrid, which would mean we would need to create that method. All of that is maybe a little bit extra, so if you need help with the testing, ask your teacher during class. But what this should do is set all of the values to be what you want within your grid. So now when I click on a location, if it's within the grid, it shows me if it's a bomb, if it's a 0, if it's a 1, if it's a 2, if it's a 3, it'll display whatever that value is back to me. Okay, so that's to do the part that gets the values to display. Now it's up to the user to click in the correct location, but let's say the user realizes that there are a bunch of 1s surrounding a given area. Maybe there's a bomb inside of that location in the middle. And they're probably right. In the game of Minesweeper, there's a way to flag a location. And what we mean by that is you can then leave it as a marked location to remind yourself, like, I do not mean to click here. That's what I think is a bomb. It's a way of letting yourself know as the user, I think that this is a bomb. And that's not a very difficult thing to add, but we do have to think about it a little bit differently. When you play the game Minesweeper, the way that you would flag a position is by using that right-click feature, which is totally something that we can do within P-Applet. When we have this mouse released method, we just have to check if the button that's being pressed on the mouse is the left button or the right button. So if the button that's being pressed is the left button, then we would want to call the regular move method. We're trying to make a move. But if the button that's being pressed is the right button, then we would want to flag a position. So that's what I need to check. And literally the way that this is going to work in actual Java code is we say if mouse button, capital B and button, equals, and then all capital letters left, then game.move, then we will call game.move of that location. But there's another situation of else if that mouse button is equal to right, whoops, not plus, equals to right, in which case we would want to call game.mark or flag. I called it mark in my game. Row, column. Now, as soon as you type this, it's going to show up in red for you because, yes, this is a method that you haven't yet made. So we're going to have to go back to our game board class. I'm having this be a separate method simply because I don't want to treat them the same. I'm not trying to make something reveal when I click this time. I'm trying to cover something up when I click this time. So instead, what I want to do is I want to go to that given location that gets passed in, and I'm going to set its value to be some new number, and I will represent those with a color or an image that is my flag. So I would have some public void mark. Excuse me. We'd have some public void mark that takes in a row and column. And all it's going to do is first check if that row column is within the grid. And as long as it's within the grid, then what I'm going to go do is I'm going to set the grid position at that row column. For me, I think I made it be -2 was the value for a flag. And so then again, another color, another image to set to be your flag. And there you go.